You're daydreaming about quitting your job, but should you? I've helped thousands of people navigate toxic work environments, and sometimes quitting is the only option. But sometimes it's the worst one. Like my client Justine, who left one toxic job for one that was 10 times more toxic. I don't want you to make the wrong move and end up with resignation regret. So today, I'm walking you through one of the toughest decisions that you're going to make in your career. Should you stick it out or quit? The answer to this question is clear when you follow my Quit with Confidence algorithm. The decision framework will make sure that your next move is the right one. Now, there is one way to guarantee that you will quit your job and almost immediately regret it. And you don't want to be one of those people who comes crawling back. So you need to make sure that you are quitting for the right reasons. Let's get the false promise of quitting out of the way first, because if you expect quitting to solve any of these problems, you need to think again. The first one is that you're making a move without intention. This is why a lot of people quit their toxic job just to find themselves in one that's way worse. Even if you're making a move for the right, helpful decisions, making changes without clarity is a massive risk. Like, more money might actually mean more problems. In a few minutes, we'll talk about minimizing those risks to make sure that you make the right move the right way. The second red flag is one that makes my eye twitch every time that someone brings it up like it's a good idea. The exit fantasy. You imagine rage quitting so that your boss will wake up to the fact that you have not gotten the pay, the promotions, and the praise that you deserve. That they'll throw money at your face to convince you to stay. Which, FYI, if you're quitting for the counteroffer, you are making a big mistake. You probably won't get one. And if you do, research has revealed that within 12 months, you're going to be handing in another resignation letter, which deja vu at that point. You leaving is not going to change anything. Which brings me to the third red flag, that you are quitting for the wrong reason. You think that it's going to solve your problems. You're sick of the drama at your job, the office politics, your gossiping coworkers, and seeing slackers get promoted while you're not even being considered. But guess what? That BS is universal. In this case, quitting relocates the problem. Maybe it'll be a different flavor, but it's still gonna leave a horrible aftertaste in your mouth. That being said, there are 3 times when quitting is clearly the best option. If you check any of these off, the only thing stopping you from handing in your resignation notice is going to be your readiness, which we're going to cover in phase 2. The first is quitting will improve your working conditions. There are 2 priorities at work, and a viral video from a couple of months ago will immediately expose yours. If you had to choose between a job that paid $120,000 a year and was fully remote, or a job that paid $240,000 but was in the office every day, which would you choose? Now, I'm curious to hear what your answer is in the comments. Your immediate reaction is actually going to expose what is more important to you right now, earning or environment. To be clear, there is no shame and there is no right answer, just your answer. If you would take the higher salary without question, earning's your priority right now. And I know a lot of people get really weird about that, and women especially get shamed if they are money motivated, but we all work to get paid. If we didn't, we would be at 10 a.m. Pilates class and then couch rotting all day. On the other hand, work environment might matter more to you. Now, what immediately comes to mind for most people is remote work, but it's actually more than that. Maybe it's having a purpose-driven job. Maybe it's a flexible schedule. Maybe it's a job that will sponsor you to move to a different country. Lots of people interested in that right now for some reason. Which brings me to the next right reason for quitting. It's going to give you a growth booster. If you're in a company that isn't growing or is doing massive layoffs, growth opportunities are going to be limited. Maybe you're even being shut out by a promotion freeze. But promotions are not the only type of growth. Growth comes in so many different forms. It might give you the opportunity to move to a new industry, work for your favorite manager at their new company, or just gain visibility in your industry. One of my clients actually wanted to establish herself as a thought leader and be speaking at big corporate conferences and attending events. So she got a job that supported that goal. Which brings us to the right reason that quitting is the right move, and that's when you are in a toxic workplace. Now, this one is a little bit loaded because it's easy to say that no job is worth your mental health, but surveys by Monster.com indicate that workplace toxicity is on the rise. And my own survey of more than 4,000 people indicated that having a toxic work environment is the strongest predictor of future toxic work experiences. No job is worth your mental health, but the reality is quitting a toxic job and putting yourself in financial peril is worse for your mental health. Which brings us into phase 2 of the algorithm, the cost of quitting. Before you hand in your notice, you need to do the math. And only some of it is literal math. I promise it's easy stuff that even social scientists like me can handle. Because if you quit at the wrong time or in the wrong way, there are enormous financial, opportunity, reputational, and psychological risks. Now let's start with the one that has the ability to ruin your life the fastest, the financial risk of quitting. There are 3 components that you need to consider before you quit your job: run rate, timing, and gaps. The first is the biggest deal breaker. Do you have the run rate in your bank account to quit your job? This is something that startups actually think about all the time, and you need to as well if you're planning on quitting your job. How many months can you survive with the cash that you have on hand? If the answer is less than 6 months, quitting before you accept a new job is probably off the table. And actually, in my opinion, I would say double that to be safe. The moment that your finances run dry and you need a job to pay your mortgage, you put yourself in a position where you are forced to panic accept a bad offer. That said, most people are not thinking about quitting without having another job first, because most people can't survive more than a month without a paycheck, which means quitting without a job lined up isn't a plan, it's a crisis. Which brings me to the second financial consideration: timing. Days can cost you thousands of dollars. Recently, one of my big tech contacts told me about a team member who put their resignation in, with their last day being just 4 days before the bonus eligibility period closed. Those 4 days cost them a low 6-figure payout. They could have negotiated their start date back a week and still gotten that bonus. Similarly, if you have stock-based compensation, such as options or RSUs that are about to vest, they might be worth waiting for. Or if you're in that oh so close to bonus payout scenario. However, if you can't wait, and especially if your new company can't wait, they need to close the gap. And this is where negotiation comes in. Even if it's not tens of thousands of dollars, you should not be leaving money on the table to start a new job. And remember that every dollar a company keeps is a company that pads their profits instead of your bank account. Of course, money is important. It is why we work, but it is not the only thing that you might be leaving on the table. Starting fresh in a new job feels like a win until you realize everything that you just gave up. There is always an opportunity cost when you quit. The question is, can you afford it? The best thing about starting a new job is that you're starting from square one. But the worst thing about starting a new job is you're starting from square one. This is something that I often don't see people talking about unless it's quietly and with regret. When you start a new job, there is a period of proving yourself. Yes, they hired you with confidence, but now you gotta put your head down and work to put the results up that you promised. It can take time to create momentum in a new job. I've seen people quit because they could not wait for that promotion, and they got the title at another company, so they quit. But after that, they stagnated when they would have been lined up for 2 more promotions at their original job. They got the immediate gratification, but they gave up their career trajectory in exchange. It also takes time to understand the dynamics of a new company. Office politics are universal. We have covered that, but every company has its own flavor, and until you figure out what you're dealing with, you're at a disadvantage. You can step in it before you realize that there was something to step in. And then there are relationships. Even if you were referred in or hired by someone that you know, there are still going to be dozens of new faces who don't know who you are yet, who won't think of you when an opportunity comes up because you haven't built that yet. But here's the part that nobody talks about. The relationships that you were trying to leave don't always stay behind. One of my clients quit specifically to get away from a toxic person on her team. 6 months later, that person joined her new company. The world is a lot smaller than you think. And I witnessed this firsthand when I worked as a human resource background checker when I was completing my criminology degree. I'll leave it at this. When you burn a bridge, you don't know if that bridge will someday be the only way to get to where you want to go. Luckily, my client had already positioned herself as a hostile target, someone that toxic people instinctively avoid. And that's a skill, not luck, and it's definitely one worth developing no matter where you land. Now, if you are leaving a toxic job, a blank canvas might be exactly what you need. Starting over is not always a loss. In a lot of cases, it's worth every cent. But before you make that call, zoom out. Quitting is usually driven by something immediate: a better offer, offer, more money, or this prospect of never seeing your micromanaging boss again. That's a checkers move. I want you playing chess because the way that you leave says a lot more about you than the reason why you left. And that brings me to what I think is the most underestimated cost of quitting, and I rarely hear anyone talk about it: the psychological cost of quitting. The good news is you can preempt this one by answering a very simple question. What do you actually want at work? For the next move to be the right move and to resign without any regret, you need to be clear on what you actually want in your next job. And I'm not talking about superficial stuff like working remotely and having a flexible work schedule. You need to go deeper than that. What values are important to you at work? And what must align for you to thrive? What leadership style do you work best with? And what questions do you need to ask in a job interview to make sure that you don't end up working with a toxic manager? Getting clear on these deeper elements is the differentiator between escaping the toxic job loop and cycling through it over and over and over again. The compounding damage caused by a second, a third, and a fourth toxic job is one that I do not want you dealing with, because each one gets worse. I don't want you to be one of those people who leaves a bad job that is tolerable for a toxic job for one that isn't. The first step to do that is to complete the toxic job diagnostic. In less than 5 minutes, you are going to get clear on if your job is toxic, how toxic it is, and what you should do about it. You can take it for free at toxicjobdiagnostic.com right now. Now, a lot of people get stuck in toxic workplaces because they can't tell it's toxic. So this assessment is going to give you the exact answer that you need on whether or not you need to quit your job. Now, you've validated that you're leaving for the right reasons and that quitting is the right choice right now. If you've answered all yeses, you know what you need to do. But most people watching this video are going to hit at least one no in phase 2 of the Quit with Confidence algorithm. That is normal, and it does not leave you without any answers because, reminder, quitting your job is a massive life decision. Even if you checked all the yes boxes above and your answer should be obvious, you still might not feel sure yet. And it's totally normal to want to exhaust all your options before you walk away. Now, whether you're still questioning it or you answered no to any of those phase 2 decisions in the Quit with Confidence algorithm, you're not quitting yet, as in within the next few days. So instead of handing in your resignation letter, phase 3 is going to give you alternate moves. These all put you in the exact position that you want, because staying does not mean settling or suffering. The first alternate move is one that a lot of people think that they've checked off, but they actually haven't. And it also happens to be the easiest. Quit without quitting. And I'm not talking about quiet quitting. That was a scam that I'm going to rant about on another day. I'm talking about mapping out internal moves that are available to you. Can you change managers? Can you change teams? Or can you change functions to solve the same problems that quitting would? I've had clients who were able to do the same job on a different team and entirely avoid the drama that they wanted to escape. However, this isn't an option for everyone, so most of my clients actually end up at the second alternate move, quiet searching. Let's be honest, the thing that binds most people to jobs they hate is finances. You can't afford to walk in and quit tomorrow and not know when the next paycheck is going to be. So most people need to find a new job before they quit their current job. But this is hard because you have a full-time job, and if that full-time job happens to be a toxic work environment, chances are your energy level is 0 at the end of the day. So updating your resume, applying to jobs, and prepping for interviews feels impossible. But there are 2 things that will make it so much easier for you. 1, focus on micro tasks. Dedicate 10 minutes to job search activities a day instead of trying to boil the ocean. I've actually been thinking about making a video about my process for doing this. Let me know if that would be helpful so I can make it. And the second strategy to make plotting your escape easy is actually the third alternate move. But I know that was just a lot of information to make this big life decision. So let's quickly recap. Before you quit your job, you need to verify that you are quitting for the right reasons. So quitting solves the problem instead of relocating it. You're going to mitigate your financial, opportunity, and psychological costs, which add up, and you're going to explore alternate options if you're not ready to quit yet. Which brings us to the final alternate move. This one is one I actually think everyone watching this video should make. While staying is temporary, a toxic job will do a number on you, unless you have the right tactics in place to minimize the damage it does, make you a hostile target, and even help you become unbothered by it. So if you're staying for now or for a while, you need to use my proprietary stay and win framework. This is going to help you minimize the damage that your toxic job can do to you, make you a hostile target for toxic people that you want to avoid so they avoid you, and become unbothered by the situation. Go and watch this video next so I can walk you through it. I'll see you there.